And we're live. Welcome to the Warrant Committee. Madam Secretary, would you please take attendance so we can declare a quorum?
Yes, we have Dave Humphreys, Tom Caldwell, Jay Fundling, Julie Joyce is on Zoom, Tim Lyons, Steve Rides is on Zoom, Amanda Serio, Ronald Sia, and Judy Steele are on Zoom.
Excellent, thank you. All right, welcome back as we're continuing our sojourn through the FY25 town budget in preparation for our annual town meeting in May. We have a series of presentations tonight of proposed budget. We're going to have Parks and Recreation, we're going to have Consolidated Facilities, we're going to have the Department of Public Works, and we're going to have the Fire Department. So with no further ado, might we please be joined by Parks and Recreation for presentation of the FY25 budget proposal.
Thanks for having us here tonight. My name's Kevin Chisholm. I'm the park director, and with me is Bonnie DeVore,
Good evening.
principal clerk here. This is a really busy time of year for us, getting all the fields ready, the tennis courts, basketball courts, and then we're really busy with our spring programming and our summer programming, which we have to do way in advance. Again, we have 4 full-time employees for 117 acres all throughout towns, tennis courts, basketball courts, fields, and Turner's Pond. And tonight we are presenting a budget. We have contractual obligations that have increased our budget. Otherwise, we have a level service budget that we are presenting. And we're here for any questions that you have regarding the parks and the budget.
Does anyone have any questions?
I'm trying to open up.
I have a question.
Sure.
I seem to recall last year, as part of the community preservation funds, that there had been some money set aside for a study of pickleball. Do you have any information regarding the status of the pickleball?
So the study is almost done. It's just tough putting, I do have 8 temporary courts for pickleball down at Kelly Field and 1 down at Andrews. For permanent courts, this is what they want, so we almost are done with the study. Kind of looking at places that aren't gonna bother people, homes and stuff, because you
Right.
heard in Braintree what's going on. So we did look down at Heritage Hall as one of the spots, and then adding on at Kelly Field, like those courts out in the outfield, the tennis courts, adding on to them, but nothing's been finalized. The still ongoing study.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions? Jay?
Yes, what's the situation with the middle school, after-school person? I can't tell if it's a supplemental request or if it's part of your budget, or can you?
So the supplemental, that is, we pay that out of our revolving account. So we put in for it.
Can you explain that?
So that's an account we have that we take in from field rentals and youth group programs. So we've been paying that, and we wanted to put it into the budget this year, but I don't think it's gonna happen, so we can wait on that. But so that's paying the, we have like high school staff that work it. The head person is funded.
Thank you.
So it's an after-school program, Monday through Thursday, 2:30 to 6, next door at the church, in the basement.
And that program's free. It's a free program, so, and we're paying out of revolving to pay for those, the children, the teens that are working, the teen center, for us, along with the teen coordinator, which is a open position right now at the teen center. That's an open position that's hopefully going to be filled soon. But right now we have a Curry student had been doing a work study there who has been there for the past 2 years along with the teen coordinator. So he's been filling in for that position temporarily until we fill out the teen coordinator position. So, but the high school staff is also assisting, like I say, it came to about $11,000 last year to pay for the recreation staff that also works in addition over there, helping to run the teen center, along with Kevin and I, so.
It is a great program. It relieves kids from going over to the library all the time.
Yeah.
There's a lot down there for kids to do. You can go down there and play pool, or you can study. There's big couches. It's definitely a nice place.
And you said that's, right now it's being paid out of the revolving fund. I
Yes.
don't have any of those numbers in front of me. I mean, pulling an extra $11,000 out of that revolving fund, I have no idea. Is it really huge? Is that, can you, what is the revolving fund used for aside from that?
Perfect example is that right there. So then we pay our summer staff out of that revolving fund, and then we hire 3 to 4 summer kids, usually college kids that work for the park department during the summer, and that's paid out of the revolving fund as well.
In the revolving fund, that's where, when people pay for programs and different things that we do, that's where the money goes in, so it's money in, money out, And most of our programs are all cost-based anyway, so it's, we make sure that the cost is at least enough to cover the cost of the director or, the facility that we have to pay for, maybe to use for the program or, along with the additional staff that needs to cover it also, so, or supplies.
I'm just a little surprised that you have an extra $11,000 in that revolving fund. Is that a
Yeah.
huge burden, or,
Well,
again, I'm not looking at
it
the
will
money.
eventually be a burden, like
Yeah.
temporarily, like that was last year that we were able to do that, but we do have a teen center account, but it would not be enough to support it for a long term,
Okay.
So for the most part, we use the teen center account just to pay for supplies and different events and different things that we'll do over at the teen center, replacement of games, different things that they're, the wants over there, so.
The teen center, that's awesome. Did they do anything in the evening, like have the like local bands played, like high school bands or anything like that?
So our lease is only for certain hours.
Yeah.
So Monday through Thursday, where our lease only covers from 2 to 6 p.m.
2 to 6.
That's our time, and then the church uses it for other things.
Yeah, again,
Right.
it's not ours,
Right.
Right,
so I think
Ideally.
if it was ours, it would be a different dynamic.
right.
I mean, is there any long-range thoughts about a relocation to?
Where though, that's, we
Could a
definitely,
library would have been a place,
Weird.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Or anyway,
I know. It's always a topic of discussion, believe me, so it's just a matter of where,
just a
that
matter
could
of where.
support it,
right.
Fire station,
Oh,
the second floor.
With a pole? Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Did they take the poll out?
I don't know.
well, that could be
Chris?
awesome.
Do you have to pay, do you pay rent, or what's the arrangement, not to go down the.
So that actually, Select Board pays for the utilities for our time that we're in there.
Okay.
During that time, so we don't have to pay for anything of the rent or anything.
Is there, so I know, getting paid is better than credit, but is there any thought, like, could you do anything like with the, the kids have to do the community credit hours?
We
Do you
do have a couple of kids that do community service there,
But
yeah.
that's probably more
Yeah,
than.
but, unfortunately, like, it's give or take, like, they'll say they're gonna be there and then they're not
Yeah,
necessarily
we
there.
like
They're
to
getting
have
paid.
Yeah,
People who are paid are gonna show up more than.
Yes.
right,
But we do have community service options.
yeah, within all our programs, really, so. Especially the summertime, that's the best time.
Chair, if I could. I'm just curious, and I'm probably getting over my skis on this, but I just wanted to know about if you had any opinion on the conditions of the fields generally in the town. And you know, if at a certain point the town was able to maybe arrange, you know, a little bit more money for the parks, would you see field improvement as being one of those, or have you explored some other avenues for field improvement? And just from my experience, I know it's been a lot of talk in the town about some of the fields.
Yeah. So we have been putting money into, we did some decent money into Flatley 2 years ago. Last summer, Pierce got, the middle part of the field got completely stripped and new sod got put down. It's just, we don't have a lot of money, so we do what we can. Yeah, I would love to have brand new fields.
Well, I guess I sort of asked it probably a little more articulately. Is there a specific park in town that you think needs more work than another?
So right now, it's ongoing at Lower Guile. We are trying to put a turf field in there.
Yeah.
That I imagine everybody's heard about. That's still ongoing. That will alleviate a lot of problems for field space. It's multi-use. Basically, every sport but baseball and softball would be able to use it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it would take a lot of pressure off of Brooks.
Yeah,
It's
and it would help
highly
Brooks, because
overused.
Brooks is so used because everybody's on it.
Yeah.
And the Low Guile would alleviate the usage at Brooks.
Which is Brooks.
The high school football field up top.
Oh, okay.
For the turf field, would there be any of the natural grass parks that you would like to, that you think maybe need some actual?
Andrews
you know,
Park is
Andrews?
getting dated, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And what would I know this is very, like again, I'm getting ahead of myself, but in terms of the repairs and an estimate, what would you expect something like
So
that to
to
cost the town?
completely redo a grass field would be like $500,000.
And that would include, in terms of Andrews, would that include the diamonds, or would that just be the open
that's
green
just-
space?
That's just the open green
Just
space.
the open green
Yeah,
space.
that's the cost of stuff.
Okay. No, I appreciate.
Unfortunately, no, it's,
No, I appreciate it because I know, you know, there's been a lot of talk about the finances of the town and what we're going to be doing, perhaps potentially in the future, or what's going to be asked. So I'm just kind of asking these questions because I think
I
it's
wish it
just-
was less.
Yeah.
What's
Thank
the,
you. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
what's the preferred seed mix in one of our athletic fields? Like a rye?
A rye, Kentucky bluegrass, something really durable,
Yeah.
you know.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I do.
Oh, Amanda.
So I guess to follow up, so other budgets we've seen have, you know, their supplemental needs, and yours only has the teen center. Is that just sort of a realistic, like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not saying ideally we would have this, like, here are the high needs. Is that really the only high need? I mean, I think also as we're thinking about looking forward.
I would ask for a teen center,
Right.
to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's you have to know your audience and the
Right.
times, like what's going on, the flow of the town. I don't think that's the right time to ask right now.
We knew
So-
it was lean.
Right.
We knew it was lean, so,
I guess one of the, just only because I know, excuse me, oftentimes like when a program opens up, you know, say a summer program or some of them that, you know, it's sort of like, okay, go, you know,
Right.
it's going to open at 4 and at 4:07, you know, just from popularity, a lot of them are filled. So is there, like, would that ever be something to have, is it a capacity issue? Is it a staffing issue?
It's usually a capacity issue.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have a lot of staff.
Yeah.
You know, with kids, we can always hire, you know, more as needed. But at the end of the day, there's only so much room and so many different programs, you know. We're in the gyms, you know, we're at the school gyms and, you know, the different locations. So it's more of a capacity, I would say.
yeah.
Okay.
And again, if we owned our own gyms, we probably would have much bigger,
Right,
Right.
be able to hold more people, but we're kind of limited. We don't.
right. And do you rent, and is that rental, so when you use them, you're renting them from the schools,
from the
correct?
schools,
Yeah,
correct.
we-
Yeah,
A fee.
you pay for a
Yep.
fee, right. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. Any other questions?
Can I make a comment? Mr. Chair, I just wanted to thank the Parks Department for all their work. Kevin and Bonnie, I know a lot of kids play sports in Milton, a lot. And you guys have a lot of demands on you. You keep the parks in great shape and you do a lot. So I know my kids are involved in sports and I'm involved in a couple of leagues and I know it's a tough job. And you keep a lot of people happy, so
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that.
We
And
appreciate that. Thank you.
thanks again.
Yeah, great.
It's true. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My gum. Thanks for the gum.
Yeah, you're welcome. You got to take two.
It's good to be here early, they're still fresh.
Next on the agenda, please, Consolidated Facilities. Welcome aboard.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chris Hayden, Director of the Consolidated Facilities for the Town of Milton. With me is Tom McCarthy. I will be leaving my position as of April 5th, and Tom here will be taking over that position starting, well, we'll overlap April 1st, so we'll have a week of overlap. First budget that I've had to prepare. I've been here for a year, so this is going in. But we are doing a level service budget here. We're overseeing your 6 schools, your landscaping and maintenance as well. So we're doing maintenance for your schools, landscaping for your schools. We're overseeing your library, your firehouses, police station, the Milton Yacht Club, and the various DPW buildings within the yard. We oversee the maintenance for those as well. And we're doing that with a staff of 7. I have an office assistant and a facility manager, sort of second in command. So we're sort of well staffed and sort of we got a good thing going. So we're just sort of just trying to keep the train on the tracks and keep everything operational.
Questions?
Questions?
I have a
Jay.
question. It's not directly related to this budget that we're looking at.
Okay.
And I will say I work for Eversource, so I might have unusual questions. But with that, so when it comes to I'm thinking like electricity, energy efficiency, I believe the other departments pay their own electric bills. The Council on Aging pays its electric bill. That's not in your budget, that's in their budget.
Right.
The library's budget pays for their electric bill, schools, et cetera. I just think there could be a benefit, I'm sort of saying this because thank you for joining us. We're happy to have you join us.
Thanks, Al.
I don't know if there's a benefit I think there would be a benefit to Consolidated Facilities taking upon themselves to do energy efficiency work with my employer, Eversource, possibly, to look at any improvements there. Now, I know, I hope the attitude is not, well, if I save the library $100 in electricity, that doesn't come out of my budget. I hope that's not the attitude.
No, this is definitely not the attitude.
But so I guess my question is, does Consolidated Facilities see it as their role to help with energy efficiency like that? And if not, could you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we buy our electricity from a third party, I'll say Direct Energy is a popular source, but we do the best we can to sort of consolidate all of our electrical and sort of purchase in bulk, right? That helps us cost savings. Of course, solar panels with the schools, numerous solar panels and sort of gains there. We've done sort of efficiency with the LED light bulbs and relamping of the buildings using high energy or efficient energy sort of split systems. We're putting a lot of those over at the library now to sort of help with energy costs. And so different variable drive speed motors and pumps sort of throughout even here at Town Hall. So we've done about $2 million worth of work for energy efficiency within the past 3 years. And the grants out there, we've gone to the trough a lot, and so we're getting a little pushback on that we've sort of gone too many times to the trough, so we don't get as much sort of grant as much as there used to be, but nevertheless we still seek out any grant out there for energy efficiency programs. But yeah, the goal is, and I don't know why, if the library pays their own electric bill, I'm not sure how that all sort of unfolds. I don't even see the electric bills for town hall or anything. So it's a little concerning in the facilities manner, because I am responsible at the end of the day not to be able to see those bills. So if I don't see a spike in usage or a drop in, the electricity or water, right? And sort of, it's one of those things that concerns me, because I'm the one that has to fix the problem. But if I don't know there's a problem, it's a daunting challenge to try to fix it. I think Tom will have sort of a chance to sort of maybe change that to where he actually can see the utility usage and sort of be aware of previous, if there's a spike in December, why was that? We should be shutting things down. Should we? But we've maybe a solar panel has gone offline, or lack of communication, so we're not producing as much solar as we used to. So those are things that we have to improve for sure. But that's just a different policy of being able to see those records firsthand, come across our desk. But yeah, we strive to do the best we can to sort of save water, save electricity, and any other manner of saving the town funds. I, as a resident of Milton, that's one of those things. It's in my back pocket to do that as well. Just
Thank you.
yeah.
To go off Jay saying, what's the status of you guys' BMS systems and access, like at the schools?
We are sort of out of date. Pierce is the worst school right now. It is operational, but it is not state of the art per se. So we have funds that have been deferred, but we are looking at upgrading new software and new points throughout Pierce. And then the high school, Collycott Cunningham, are sort of our newest, latest and greatest updated software. And so we, controlling buildings remotely, we can do that. Glover is not as old, but you have to remember that all of our school buildings now are 20 years old. So a lot of people in town like to think they're about 10 or 6 years old, but they are 20 years old as of this year. So, but Glover has a good system that's up and running. It's Pierce Middle School that is the most challenging, and that'll be the most costliest upgrade that we're going to need. So that's more of a priority for the BMS systems. But they are functional, they are operational, but we need to sort of strive to do an upgrade on those programs, and Pierce should be the first on the block.
What is
the
this
BMS?
system?
Thank you.
Building management system, so it allows me to operate boilers, lighting controls remotely. So if the building is empty, I don't need to be running air conditioning at 11 o'clock at night. But say somebody overrode the system and it's running at 11 o'clock. I can go into my laptop computer and shut it down remotely. But it tracks the usage, energy usage, so we can get a better play on, we can start the boilers up at 6 a.m. to warm the buildings up rather than 5. But maybe on a cold day, we really should start them at 5. So we can get them, so we can do that remotely. So, but every little fan, every little motor, there's a little point that sends sort of a communications back to your computer that says, yes, I'm running, I'm operational. And sometimes if a louver doesn't open and a whole wing of a building goes cold, so you open up your system, you can see, okay, that louver, is it mechanical, is it a communication error? So it helps you track down any malfunctions of the equipment as well. But it's a pretty much a smart system for running your HVAC and boilers and lighting programs as well.
One other, can you give them an update on the SWIG?
SWIG, so SWIG is for bottle filling stations, hydration stations, whatever you want to call them. There's a grant out there for the schools to do some water testing, provide a sample of the water for this grant, and there's the funds out there that actually will help us install those hydration stations in our schools at no cost. So we should be able to work with our water gentleman over at the DPW to get the water reports, and then we can put the results into the from the MWA into the grant, and hopefully get we're only looking at about 12 to 15 units that will complete all 6 schools. So hopefully by this time next year, all schools will have operational bottle filling stations that can be maintained. Right now, during COVID, a lot of units were purchased that either off Amazon or Home Depot, and those really are not a maintainable piece of equipment that we can maintain. Once it breaks, it breaks. But these will be more of a commercial brand hydration station that the students can use. And we'll look at other locations, just having looked at the location of gymnasiums. So and we'll also look at new locations, because just to make sure that near your gymnasiums that there's a bottle filling station there, because that's sort of a point of need. Rather than having to walk down the hallway and so forth. So, but we've looked at that. We've got the locations spec'd out. So it's just going through the process of getting the water samples, getting them into the grants, and hopefully we'll be approved and we can get those installed.
Thank you.
Amanda?
Excuse me. So, just so I'm understanding, because, when you were on the budgets that we're looking at, when we're talking about the supplemental, the Schedule F supplemental,
Yep.
so those are over and above, or are those included in, is that like your needs-based, or is that included within the, I always call it the wrong
It's
thing,
going to be
level?
over and above. So Pierce Grounds and Maintenance, so you have landscaping. So having a staff of 7, if having to do the landscaping for the high school and for Pierce Middle School, which are the 2 largest campuses we have, that could take 2 crew members away from me for about a week, because we just don't have the equipment to do that. So we were looking to sort of bring Driscoll in to help us with that. So we can maintain the elementary schools, and so because it's all about trying to get the manpower back into the schools to fix plumbing, to fix chairs, to fix doors, rather than being out in the landscaping world. So we've got some numbers here from Driscoll Landscaping to help us with the school, high school and middle school, and we can maintain the elementary schools. The cleaning contract for the fire station, it's a beautiful fire station, so we take that on as a cleaning contractor. So we've had to expand our cleaning contract, and then window cleaning, since it is a jewelry box, sort of a glass house over there. So that is an additional cost to keep the firehouse, and that will this will expand a little bit more as the East Milton Firehouse comes on as well. Right, these services, because I oversee the cleaning services cleaning contractor for all of the town buildings. So the library, COA, so they all fall under my purview. So those are services we just have to expand as we sort of get newer buildings online. Not that we're not cleaning the buildings now, it's just, there's a different standard once you have a brand new building online. So, and then the maintenance tech, that is sort of above and beyond, is the W3 position. So it's really, we were looking to reorganize the department, but so that was sort of a supplemental. We had a retirement in our staff, so it's really just trying to sort of, do we need and that was a higher paid position, so it's really just, this position would come in at a cost savings, and Tom at that point would sort of be hiring if the position is needed. It's really just seeing how much labor do we need, and making that fine balance.
So then if the, excuse me, so if it's this year, if it's a level, give me the right word again, level funding, level funding. I don't know why I keep getting that stuck. Level service. I keep using that, I keep wanting to call it something else. So if it's level service and say the needs-based aren't met, how do you do how are these pieces? So your 2 people will be off for a week. Do you know what I mean? Or is this part of the?
Well, you sort of the retirement. Your retirement. You can't bring your operational up to salary, but you can bring salary down to your operational. So there's cost savings from the gentleman retiring. So that can help offset the $30,000 for the landscaping. And then it can help offset the costs for the W3.
Okay. Ron's hand is up.
Ron,
Hi, I just had the one question.
Yep.
When you bring on new contractors, can you talk a little bit about any RFP process for bids?
Repeat that.
Oh, could you?
Ron, can you repeat that, please? It was a little garbled on our end.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I was just wondering if they could talk a little bit about the RFP process for new contractors or when they renew service agreements.
So we go out to bid, we'll get 3 bids. Typically, we'll sort of look in, it's the lowest bid contract will sort of be accepted. The process is pretty simple. It's sort of, we try to get a ballpark area of where your bid process is. You know, if it's over 10,000, 3 bids are required. If, over a certain, then we'll have to go out and publish. But for services like the cleaning contractors, landscaping contractors, that will all be advertised, and then we'll sort of receive the bids. Then we'll open those bids on a certain specified day, and then we'll sort of look at if they meet the requirements, and then we sort of it's the lowest bid, but that's ends up, I believe, that's the result. You get the lowest bid.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other questions? Judy.
Thanks, Dave. I have a question about looking at the lowest bid. If I were to put that into real life, sometimes the lowest bid isn't necessarily going to satisfy what you're looking for in terms of operation or quality of the work being done. So can you say that it's always been the lowest bid has satisfied the needs of the work?
I can say that the lowest bid has never satisfied the work, but it's one of those you sort of you can pick the middle bid, you can pick the highest bid, but you've got to come with a lot of backup to explain why you're not picking the lowest bid. If everybody's got their ducks in a row and they're offering you A, B, and C, and everybody's offering you A, B, and C, and this person just happens to have the lowest bid, and they're covering everything, yes, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the largest headache, and everybody's aware of it. But it's just the nature of the beast that we have always gone with the lowest bid, and it's hard to say that, but in the efforts of saving money, it's a great thing. But then at the end of the day, when you're trying to get buildings cleaned or landscape cut and beautified, and that's when it sort of takes up your man hours of more supervision, more getting involved, bringing the contractor to the table, saying they're not meeting their needs, and then you can terminate the contract, put it out to bid again, and that person has every right to put the bid back in. So yes, it is not the best solution. It's not the best method. However, it just unless you have a lot of backing on why you didn't go with the lowest bid, that will always be the solution. And I hate to say it's the easiest way out, but sometimes it's the easiest way out.
It's really the lowest responsible bidder, so obviously you're gonna get references and check references and make sure that there are responsible people that you're hiring. So if you do your homework, either if they are the lowest bidder, generally you can get the right person. And as Chris said, if you do your homework and they're not responsible, you'll find that out. And that gives you the ability to move to the next responsive bidder.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone?
Easy crowd.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'll take two.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Who knew bubble gum was such a big thing?
It's double bubble.
You have a double bubble?
It's baseball season.
Moving on.
Take a couple of them.
Department of Public Works.
Evening,
Evening.
Jim. Thank you for having me, members of the committee.
Happy to have
Hello.
you. Please tell us all about the DPW.
Yeah, so what I thought made sense and what's worked in the past is to walk through the narrative I provided that kind of takes you through all the different components of the DPW budget. So just as a reminder, we are a multi-budget department where we operate both under the general fund and under the town's 3 enterprise funds. So in terms of tonight, I'm going to focus on the general fund budgets. The enterprise budgets are very close. We don't receive our figures from the MWA until the end of February typically, so we do have those, but we're waiting on some debt service numbers to finalize those budgets up. So
Do you know when that's going to be finalized?
I would anticipate by the end of the week. We're just waiting for accounting to get us the debt service numbers, and that's really the last component to plug into those budget forms. So that'll be pretty quick on our end. And just to kind of spiral off of that, so in terms of personnel, every DPW employee is assigned a fixed percentage from those different budgets, and that's how they're paid. So each person in the DPW, 37.5% of their salary comes from the general fund, and 62.5%, the rest comes from the 3 enterprise funds. And that's across everybody evenly. So personnel is definitely probably one of our struggle points these days. For some time now, we've had 4 vacancies in the field crews for, not just a typical laborer's position, but a more skilled worker that has a CDL or a hoisting engineer's license to operate heavy equipment. We've had a very difficult time getting applicants and getting qualified applicants that have those licenses. So they've been sitting out there for, I think probably this will be the 3rd budget if we go into FY25. One of the ways we've combated that is to bring in lower level, entry level employees. Mr. McCarthy, who just left, was very diligent and got the town self-certified to act as a CDL trucking school. So now we can train people in-house and certify them through the federal guidelines to be eligible to take a CDL test, which is a huge thing because if you were to do it on your own now, the going rate is about $10,000. So to ask someone coming in at minimum wage to come up with $10,000 on their own is a difficult ask. So that's a big win for us. So we've been able to get some new employees in there at a lower level, but at least we have them in. We can train them in the way we do things and get them licensed so they can move up into those upper positions. And all of our collective bargaining agreements are now finalized, so we have our actual figures for the salary and wages budget, so those figures are in there, and a big thank you to the accounting department because they put that together for us. You can imagine 40 different steps and lanes and in retro and all that is quite the spreadsheet, so I'll give all the credit to them. Moving on to our DPW general operating budget, which also includes engineering. It's essentially level funded except for a little tweak on the utility side to cover rate increases for our own water and sewer utility bills that just based on our actual costs, we see the need to raise that just a little bit. And then we had a supplemental request there on one of the line items that it tends to be more of a proactive one. So we have a line item called payment to contractors that covers both emergencies and planned work that we outsource to third-party contractors. I think it was either FY 18 or 19, but that got cut in half in order to make up a budget deficit, and it's just never been restored to where it used to be. So we've asked as a supplemental request just to bring that back to its historic level of $250,000 as a supplemental request. And then moving on to vehicle maintenance. This is an area where we've seen costs swell greatly. If you remember last year, we were given some free cash to try to make up those increases, and so we'd like to continue to keep that increased budget amount just based on the amount of repairs we're doing, dealing with a somewhat aging fleet, and the both scarcity of available parts, what it costs to now send vehicles out to dealerships and manufacturers, You know, based on actual costs, we're projecting that increase is going to be necessary to keep pace with how much it costs to maintain our fleet. So, and you know, similar to maybe like your new furnace in your house, the newer vehicles, which you would expect to not have to worry about, tend to be finicky when it comes to sensors and emission systems. And so what you'd like to forget about and work on the older stuff actually ends up becoming a burden just because they're more complicated and have more issues that can go wrong than a nice old 1985 diesel engine. So that supplemental request is $75,000 into the vehicle maintenance budget, just for those reasons. And that's spread into a few different subcategories there: parts, outsourcing, and of the like. And then moving on to snow and ice. So actually, I'll give you a picture where we are today, because everyone, and we're in March, so I'm not gonna count my chickens just yet. But to date, we've spent. So let me at least start with our typical amount for snow and ice is $160,000 over the last few years. That's intentionally underfunded for a couple of reasons. One is the Commonwealth allows you to roll a deficit into the following fiscal year to make up that deficit, because snow and ice can be so unpredictable and we're in the hands of Mother Nature. And the other thing is snow and ice is typically a very valid reserve fund request in most towns in the Commonwealth. So that's typically a place you'd look to, either absorbing it through surplus budgets or going to the reserve fund, and then worst case scenario, rolling it into the following year and raising it on the tax recap. So it basically comes out of your free cash on the following year. So most towns, almost every town in the Commonwealth, underfunded intentionally. So do we. On a year like this, where we really haven't had any snow, we're still probably $50,000 over double the budget. So we're at about $350,000 spent to date. On a typical year, just to buy the salt to put in the shed, it's $200,000 to $250,000, which is $100,000 over our allotted budget. So we go into the year expecting to go into the red almost immediately on that, and we, you know, hope for good weather. But you know, if we don't get it, the mechanisms are in place to cover us. So we did put in a supplemental request under snow and ice to get that up to 250, just to try to get a little closer to reality. That way we're not having to make up quite as much of a deficit, but that tends to be a common place to pull back when a budget deficit is there, because you can leave that low intentionally. And then the last category is solid waste. So we're in the third year of our contracts that are in place for solid waste collection and disposal, which includes recycling. We have a 5-year contract in place for the collection, so that's the hauler, the trucks that show up and bring it to the disposal facilities. We have fixed percentages for that contract, so the FY25 percentage increase is 3%, so those budgets just went up that exact 3% because they're fixed numbers. We have fixed percent increases on our disposal prices. However, tonnage is a variable, so we know the trash is going to cost us $116 a ton next year. We just don't know exactly how many tons we're going to get, so we project that based on historical volumes and come up with that figure. So it's a 5% price increase. If the volume stays the same, the budget goes up 5%. Recycling is a tough one to guess. Things have been trending better lately, but the market tends to swing very volatile and sometimes unexpected. So for the past few months, recycling and trash disposal have been just about an even cost. But moving into March, we saw some increases in the value of that commodity of recycled material, and our price to process it went down. So we're doing better now than we were if you'd asked me back in December. But where the market's going to go in 18 months from now, it can be difficult to predict. So what we do is we project a price that is similar to the previous year's trend. We get information from our processing facilities about the global market and for those goods and where they think the industry is going to go. And so the price per ton put into the budget takes in all those factors as a best guess to where we're going to land. Trash volumes and recycling volumes are typically pretty steady. We definitely saw an increase during COVID because people were home more often and throwing things away more often. But that's been trending down a little bit, so it's going in the right direction. Hopefully it continues that way. You know, we have a lot of mechanisms in place to encourage waste reduction. We operate the recycling center once a month where you can bring items that don't belong in the trash. And we have a pay-as-you-throw program which you know, puts the burden on the producers of the waste. The more you generate, the more you have to pay to get rid of it. And we follow the DEP guidelines in terms of recycling for mattresses and other items that they want to keep out of the landfills. So those budgets, we have a pretty good handle on where they usually land, and we've done pretty well over the past few years of meeting those targets. So knock on wood, aside from recycling, we should be in good shape there without any real supplemental needs. And that was it for me, but I'd be happy to go into any more detail or answer questions.
So I have a question. So what is the nature of the recycled materials market that causes these price fluctuations?
So the initial one was a global nature. So China, back in about 2018, stopped accepting the material wholesale and put more restrictions on what came into the country. That set off a global price change. So back then, we used to actually get checks from the recycling processing facilities and paid the town for the material we delivered. That really hasn't happened in the last 4 years because the demand has significantly changed at a global level for that material. So now the processing facilities have to find new places to send that. So short term, they looked to other countries in the world, and a little longer term, they look to standing up facilities in the US to process that material and recycle it here. But it takes time to get those facilities built and up and going. So there was a lag in that, you know, ability to accept material locally, which just kept the prices of getting rid of it artificially high. Something like glass, which, you know, everyone does their good diligence and put the glass in the recycling bin, actually is a negative on the commodity. And so you lose money by throwing glass in your recycling bin. But it's the nature of the material, and the Commonwealth has what they call waste bans in place that don't allow certain things to go in the trash, like a mattress or construction debris. So recycling is really the only option to get rid of those, even though you really can't sell the material for any type of, you know, lucrative effort.
How's the wood chipper going?
Wood chipper's been great, and thank you for your support for that.
Yeah.
It's a busy piece of machinery, and the crew is very appreciative. It's nice to have a nice modern wood chipper that, you know, it goes out 5 days a week.
I think we reference the wood chipper in every meeting. I think it's,
Everything relates to the back to the
everybody,
wood
it
chipper.
does, it goes.
As long as it's not the ocean meeting, yeah.
What?
I have a question kind of related to the recycling and the waste. So when you're talking about waste if it's like the volume of waste increases, has the town ever looked at, you know, I know a lot of people do like the composting. Would that ever be something that the town would do a contract, you know, people would still pay for it, but do a contract and then help, like that might help mitigate some of the waste volume? Have you guys ever looked at that?
We have, yep. So we have a preferred partner in composting, so residents can get a discounted rate from the vendor. DEP offers a few vendors that do like household composting, so you might see some houses put out that separate composting barrel and they come by and pick them up. A wholesale composting program where the town would send a truck to every house and pick up would be a net loss at this point if you look at the disposal fees. Even though you're pulling that waste out of the solid waste, the cost to pick it up and dispose of it separately wouldn't balance out yet.
Okay.
And that's just really, the market isn't there for it yet. So what we do is we promote, you know, individual composting by either getting a discount on the program. We sell composting bins so you can compost in your yard. Mm-hmm. We did run a pilot with the school system and some of the parents involved where they practiced separating in the cafeterias, and then we were able to use some grant funding we get through the recycling dividends program to pay for the disposal of that composting. So there's no net cost to the town. We just used grant money to try it out, which was pretty successful.
Good.
Yeah, it unfortunately just doesn't scale yet to make
Okay.
it worth it, yeah.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Judy.
Thank you. Back to the recycling issue, where it is costing us money to recycle due to the changes in what we can sell it for. Do you foresee perhaps putting a fee on the recycled blue barrels? Not quite the same amount of money as the trash barrels, but to sort of keep it at a level amount of money it costs the town to have the blue bins picked up?
Yes, that's actually an interesting concept. I've never heard of anyone charging for recycled material, and I think that's based on the origin of it. Is the idea was to pull that material out of the waste stream because it had value and could be reused. Massachusetts bans recycled materials from your trash, so we couldn't combine and go to one barrel and throw everything away the same way. We're not allowed to allow those materials into our waste stream. So we have to have a recycling program, but a fee on it would be, I think, a very novel thing, and we'd have to really do the diligence on whether or not we think that would be successful.
Do you know if any other
Okay, thank
towns
you.
do that?
I've never heard of it, yeah.
No, just
Yeah.
curious.
I mean, not that, you know, I'm looking to have residents pay more for their disposal, but ultimately, at the end of the day,
Pay
the
more.
town budget matters. So I just had that curious question. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
I got something I should know, but I don't. When you talk about trash and recycling, is that just household? Like the businesses around town?
Yeah, we don't service commercial property, so yeah, it's just residential in the schools, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
It's good because we don't have any commercial property. Tom.
So just I guess on the same line of questioning, and just looking out to the end of our contract, anything that you see in the market that would be of concern to you in terms of a new contract? Like you were mentioning in terms of recycling, are companies looking for more for that tonnage of waste, more for recycling? I guess in the end, will we be paying more, you think, come around this next time, just as a matter of the market force, or are things kind of just steady as they've been for the past couple of contracts at least?
Yeah, so we've been locked in a contract now for quite some time, so we've been able to predict where things are going to go. What happens when those contracts end is we typically go out to bid, even though by law we actually don't have to, but we do just to, create competition for our goods. The geographic location of where we are locks us in a lot of ways. So to ask a trash company to drive to a facility that's more than 10 miles away puts a lot of burden on and time on how long that truck has to travel to go dump and then come back and do it again. So, even if we were to seek out a facility that was, a better price per ton, you have to weigh the cost that the hauler is going to charge you to drive that much further. And at some point, there's a tipping point there. For us, we use Covanta and Braintree for our solid waste and waste management in Avon. They're both south of the city. The trucks don't have to drive through the city traffic to get to the facilities. And so, we work with them to get the best price possible. But in general, facilities to bring this material have been reducing, so the options are getting more scarce. And, we'd love to see competition in that world, but it doesn't exist right now. It's really practical for us to use.
Yeah. So, I mean, is it, but I guess going back, are there like big upward trends in terms of generalized costs for these contracts now because of the less competition and less options? I know Milton's kind of in would you say a more beneficial geographical area, right, for this type of thing, but.
So one of the biggest factors that kind of drives our prices is what happens to Boston's prices. So if Boston goes out with hundreds of thousands of tons, we have 6,000 tons a year, and they get a certain price, chances are the facilities aren't going to charge any less than that price to anybody else.
Okay.
And that so what we did back in 2017 is we took our bidding schedule off the same as Boston's because we didn't want to be held kind of hostage by whatever pricing Boston got that year. So we wanted to get off that same schedule, which has been helpful, and we've seen, we've gotten a better deal when we're by ourselves than when, everybody's out there, because facilities are hesitant to quote one town a price and then have to hold it for another.
Yeah. Okay, I thank you very much for the information.
So, can I ask, so a follow-up for that, we're talking a lot about garbage and, so are you saying, does it cost us more? Is it sort of a loss for us? Is that what you're saying, for the cost, for what comes in for the barrels and that we take in from the town versus what it costs for the contract?
Yeah, so the pay-as-you-throw program, so the annual barrel, the red stickers, all that funds, it doesn't fund the whole program. There are some funds that are necessary from the tax levy, but it funds a good percentage of it. It's more than 50% for sure. And the idea behind that is one incentivizes people to produce less waste because they don't want to pay for more, and it puts the burden on people who generate the most waste. So if I have 3 barrels and you have 1, I pay 3 times as much as you do.
So this is me not proposing this, just so anybody doesn't get the wrong idea, but I know that there are some towns where residents they'd have to do it privately. It's probably not a lot of towns, but do you see that as a trend anywhere? Do you know of a lot of towns where it's incumbent on the resident to do their own?
It does happen, not typically in Greater Boston. You go down the Cape and
Right.
places as you get further away from the city, and you do see private collection pop up a lot more frequently, just in our geographic area.
It's not.
It's kind of the standard that there's either curbside collection or a facility to bring it to that's open to the residents.
Okay, thanks.
But also, the farther away from the city you get, the more burn barrels you get.
True, very true.
So,
Burn barrels.
Burn your trash.
Oh,
burn
yeah.
it.
There you go.
with a permit, of course.
Of course.
Or hot dogs.
No trash. Tom.
Are there any more questions about trash or recycling? I would like to move on. I have a question that's...
Tom, please.
Sewage?
Right.
Yeah. I was just curious, just in terms of, another popular topic, and you've done a significant amount of road work. In this fiscal budget this year, and I've seen all the great work up at Reedsdale and everything you've been doing, so thank you. Are there any special projects that come across your desk that you're going to be focusing on, and maybe not just repaving, maybe like signal work or crosswalks or curbage or anything like that stands out that in your mind?
We do, yes. We have a few upcoming this construction season. So those projects almost always either come through grants or through our capital budget. So they're just too expensive to be part of the operating budget. So, thankfully the town has funded supplemental on top of our state allotted Chapter 90. We've gotten $1 million on top of the 620 from Chapter 90 for the past 5 years, which has really helped us catch up on the deficit of road paving. So we just finished the Pierce Middle School intersection. If you notice, the lights were all changed there. All the wheelchair ramps were built, and signals are modernized for ADA compliance. So that was a grant through Mass DOT Complete Streets program. We have, if you go to the town's website and you go to the engineering department, it will list out all the streets we're going to pave this construction season. There's several that were related to water main and gas replacement projects, and then there's some work that are just streets that are either going to be rehabilitated, like Reedsdale Road by the hospital that you mentioned. That's like an emerging technology, so that was basically a skim coat on top of a road that was in okay shape. So we got a huge surface area resurfaced for pennies on the dollar for what it would cost to actually grind it and repave it. So our engineering department's really been focused on what they call pavement preservation techniques and using some of these new technologies and products as alternatives to traditional repaving, just to stretch those dollars, because there's no secret that the need is there, and there's certainly a backlog of road work that needs to happen. One of the things that often I think sometimes people forget is we can't just go in and repave a road curb to curb without bringing everything up to ADA compliance, which means we have to build wheelchair ramps at all the corners for the sidewalks and adjust the sidewalks where they might be too steep or not wide enough. So that really adds a significant percentage onto, just the cost of repaving the road itself.
But like in terms of, I know last year we were talking, I think it was in your supplemental budget, it was traffic mitigation. So anything,
Yeah,
maybe
so
you're working on that?
Those
like-
budgets are in the FY24 that are active now. So for example, we just got through a design and we're implementing speed humps on Governor's Road. We work with the community pretty closely on that. We have construction plans for in front of Town Hall by the gazebo. We're going to build a crossing there with push-button lights so that you can cross Canton Ave there and get it across the other side, right at the corner of the Town Hall driveway. And everything else aside from that is basically part of our paving program. So we'll be paving Walnut Street and Clapp Street behind Town Hall to get those just resurfaced and rebuilt because they're in poor shape. We're going to be paving Elm Street, Audubon Road, because we did water main and other utility work there. So there's a whole host of projects teed up for this construction season.
Thank you.
Tim?
All the roads that had gas work done being paved, or they just cut and cover the way they are now?
No, so there's a couple of things that happen when gas work happens. So the gas company has their own priorities, so they call that integrity work. So if they have a leaky system and they want to replace the gas pipe to eliminate leaks, they come in and they replace their pipes, and we can either request that they repave and restore their trenches, or if you remember 2 town meetings ago, we were able to create a revolving fund that we can take a payment from them and say, for a little bit more money, we might be able to do the whole road. It doesn't always work and it doesn't scale for every road, but in some cases it does work. And so we have that ability to do that. So what we do is we meet with the gas company over the winter and we exchange programs. So we tell them where we're going to work, they tell us where they're going to work. And we try to meld those two and overlap them as much as possible so that every place that utility work happens gets some type of paving by the end. But unfortunately, sometimes that's a 2 to 3 year process by the time you do gas, water, sewer, drain, to get through all that. So it can be lengthy.
And one other question off of budget, but water mains going to houses, do you know if we still have lead ones in the town?
Yep, so there are not many, but there are a handful out there. So there is what they call the revised lead and copper rule that the EPA issued. So by October of 2024, we're required to submit to EPA and DEP an inventory of all known lead services in town and then a 10-year plan to remove it. Milton has very, very few compared to most communities. Kudos to the previous decades and generations, but they did a lot of work to get a lot of the lead out of the system already. So our real task now is identifying and doing the inventory to basically prove our innocence that we don't have a lot of lead. But that's a federal mandate. We're going to go through that regardless.
Does the town own up to the water meter, or is that on the homeowner?
No, the town owns the water service up to the property line, and then the homeowner owns it from the property line in.
Or does that account of lead from the property line in, or just what you guys have in the street?
So the revised lead and copper rule, again, federal level, puts the burden on the town no matter where the lead is. If there's lead in the system, they want it out. And we're responsible for making that happen.
Thank you.
Tom?
Just one more question, and I meant to ask this earlier, but other than like the engine work that you have to outsource, which is understandable, like I know you have the positions, I don't know if that would rectify that, but do you find yourself having to outsource more stuff other than the engine repairs?
In terms of vehicle repairs?
Well, vehicle repairs or anything else that you have to outsource as a result of maybe the positions not being filled or just, I don't know, some other
not so much.
factor.
So I think what happens is we become more reactive and less proactive. So we can pretty much handle most things in-house. Specialized things, obviously, if we got to do, certain type of painting or things that just we don't do as an everyday business, we will definitely, utilize contractors that do that for a living and are much more efficient. But most things that fall within the DPW, we can handle. It's just that, with the lack of personnel, there's just less people to do it. So, and I take tree cutting, for example. So, if we can't staff our tree crew all the time, we basically respond to all the issues but don't go out and actively prune and try to stay ahead of them, because we just, we're not on the road every day. So things like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you very much.
Jay?
Can I go back to the road repairs and funding? So, and this may be a conversation that goes beyond this meeting. In fact, I hope it does. There's a road stabilization fund out there that got established 5, 6, 7 years ago. And it looks like it got set up, got a couple $100,000, and then nothing was done with it. And I have not even found anybody who knows what it's supposed to be for, because roads are supposed to be bonded, I would think. So I'm not even sure what it's supposed to be used for, but whatever it's supposed to be used for, it's not being used for. So I don't really know if I have a question. Do you know what we should be doing with this road stabilization fund, especially given that the select board has talked to the town administrator about, okay, a year plus from now, we might be having an override. Why don't you take a holistic view of our finances?
Yep. Yeah, so I'm aware of the fund. It was created through the planning department. And I think the idea at the time was to, if large-scale developments came in town, be able to take payment for them. It's earmarked for the purpose of roadway work. So if someone's going to put up a huge building, they make a payment into that fund. It gets protected and can only be used for that reason. I believe there was only one deposit put into it, so there's not a lot of money in it that's hanging out there in terms of roadway work. But it's something we could follow up on and see, where it might be applicable.
So under that, to kind of ask follow-up, so under that, if there are large, that we have a lot of 40Bs coming in, I hate even calling them that, but a lot of large developments potentially coming in. So if there was, say, I don't know, one of them, if it's 120 units, would that be that kind of thing where, or does it have to be written into whatever the application is that they would contribute money to the road fund?
So I don't know if a 40B project would be exempt from that fund because
Okay.
of the guidelines they fall under, but if there were a special permit project or a permitted project through the town,
Okay.
that was the intention.
Okay.
Tom?
Just to kind of dovetail off that, like some of the new developments in town, and of course, conversation about potentially not just the ones in the pipe, but maybe the MBTA stuff. This has come up, came up on maybe last year or a certain point this year, and I've read it recently in some of the papers, the Globe specifically, about some other towns. Do you have concerns about the sewer system, the capacity of the sewer system? To take in all these for development. I mean, I know it's a much more complicated question than that, but are there concerns on your level of all this stuff?
Yeah, so that's something we actually have pretty good control over. So if you remember, there was a project at Winter Valley to build another building, right? So sewer capacity was an issue on that project because the lines in Canton have limited capacity. So what we do is we make the applicant demonstrate that the town system has capacity for their project. And it's very specific. It could be one way on one street and a block over it's completely different.
Yeah.
So you have to really analyze that at a very local level. But that goes on, it's the burden of the applicant. And in some cases, the applicant has to upgrade the town system in order to be able to connect to it. So the Ice House project on Blue Hills Parkway, they had to actually extend the sewer line in the street up to their project just to be able to connect to it. And they do that solely at their expense. It doesn't cost the town anything to do that. And then perpetually, we generate sewer revenues from the property as they discharge. So it ends up being a net positive.
Oh, no, so they, in terms of the upgrade, and that would just obviously be connecting, but just so I'm clear, like the system as a whole. So like as we get away from the property and down the streets to I guess am I asking this?
You are, yeah. So in the engineering world, we call those control points. So even though I'm flushing it here, if it ends up 3 blocks down and creates a problem for those people, what do we do about that? And we've put that burden on applicants in the past to say, you're going to create an issue not in front of your front door, but where you connect in the town system. So the MWA big giant sewers that run through the town collect all the sewage from Milton. And we don't just have one pipe that connects into them. We connect in multiple places as the lines run through. And so we often make the applicant analyze their connection point all the way to the MWA system to make sure there's capacity the whole way.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. And the reason I'm asking this is just because I'm just kind of figuring out who's going to be if this is a problem, whose burden is it going to be on? Is it going to be on the residents, or are MWRA fees going to go up to offset this, or is it going to be on the developer?
Yeah, it's on the developer to initially build it, for sure, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Mr. Berkeley, thank you.
Very good.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Have a
Thank
good
you very
night.
much.
For coming. Okay.
It's a lot of waste
The best for
discussion.
last.
Even the end was waste discussion.
I know, right? The trash has to get picked up, right?
Chief Madden, good evening.
Other stuff has to get, even the trash has to get.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Hello.
Chris Madden, Fire Chief, for about almost 4 years now. Thank you for having me. Fire Department budget. It's pretty basic, pretty simple. 93-94% is personnel. The other costs are equipment, new equipment, equipment upgrade, bills, heat, water, electricity. It's pretty much the basis of it, you know, level funded. We've been level funded for 20 years. The last substantial increase that we had was probably when they hired me, just after September 11th. I think they added 4 firefighters to the department, and that was it. So that was back in 2001. We've been pretty much level funded since then. So kind of par for the course. Collective bargaining, the firefighter union is, they went to arbitration with the town, so we don't have those numbers yet. So we'll find out soon, hopefully, so we can get on top of that. So that's the basis of the budget, you know. Just managing the equipment, managing the people, and making sure that to try and get to the end of the year and move on to the next.
How's the new building?
New building is fantastic. The building, so when you look at the new building, it allows us to do a lot of things. If you've ever been in the old firehouse, you can see it there. I think there's another picture right up over there. So it was, 146 years of service to the town. We got our money out of that building. So one of the things that has always been, and when you look at the budget, and you look at the fire department, where do we go, where have we been? And I think a lot of the stuff was limited by the building. There was not much office space. My office was on the apparatus floor, not very healthy, so just not conducive of any kind of technology. We couldn't increase in technology or anything. So moving to the new building, we have plenty of office space now. We just need the people to fill those offices to do it. Technology is tremendous. The amount of technology that we put into that building. It's a safer building for our firefighters. There's one day we were in that firehouse. The next day we were out, and the guys with the hazmat suits came in, and they're like, "You guys were in this yesterday?" Yes, we were living in there yesterday, and like, dude, I wouldn't have been in there without the hazmat suit. Wow. It's just old. There's a lot of asbestos around, so that's all been remediated, so removed. So the new firehouse allows us to do a lot of different things. One is technology, just using technology. We had a deputy chief the other day, for training. I am a huge believer in training. The firefighters train every day. And so we let the deputy chiefs choose the training, and they reviewed a fire that they had, and they used like Google Earth, and they had the house there, and they said this is where they had the engine parked, this is where the ladder parked, this is where the hydrant was, and they reviewed the fire that way, and just using the technology to review how it went, and it'll speak dividends down the line. We have a training tower on the back side that goes 4 stories and has windows on it. This week we, when you talk about new buildings, everything's 4, 5, 6 stories. A standpipe. Standpipe allows us to carry water up the stairwell that is already in place. And so the training tower we have has a standpipe. So this week we were practicing on standpipe operations. So you look at bigger cities, a 10-story building. We hook up to the outside standpipe. We carry our hose to the 10th floor. We hook up there, and the water comes right up to us, and then we can take our attack line into the room of fire. On fire. So that's what we're doing this week. So the training, the technology, and then obviously the health and wellness of the firefighters. You know, that we have a whole decontamination unit or area, you know, when they come back from a fire or they come back from a person with, and, you know, I know norovirus is going around pretty prominent right now. The flu, you know, when our members come back and they have one of those calls, well, they can go through that decontamination corridor as well and decontaminate themselves and the equipment or whatever they use, their clothing, and decontaminate it so it doesn't get into the administrative area or the living spaces. So the building is tremendous. The other two are sorely needed. I know Engine 2 is the next one. Hopefully we can get that off the ground and you know, make sure that that's a nice, safe firehouse for our firefighters, and then Atherton Street will follow after that. So that's the plan.
Deb?
Are you short any firefighters to meet the NFPA 1710? Is it 1710? 1710.
Yes. So NFPA 1710 says that you should have 4 firefighters, a lieutenant or an officer, and 3 firefighters per piece, per engine and ladder. We have 3 engines in service. Typically, right now, we run, our minimum staffing is 11, so we have an officer and 2 firefighters on each engine, and then the ladder truck has 1 firefighter on it. And then we have a deputy chief that is in the command vehicle. So yes, we are short firefighters. It says you should have 17 firefighters on scene in the first 10 minutes of a fire. We show up with 11. We rely heavily on our mutual aid partners. And they do as well. Randolph, Canton, actually we went to both cities today for towns today for fires. This morning for Randolph and this afternoon. On my way over here, they had a fire about 4 o'clock this afternoon in Canton. So yes, we are short. And I will say that, you know, one of the things that having the conversation and trying to formalize this budget and, you know, where this department's going to go in the future, trying to work through that with the town administrator, you know, it's something that we've recognized, and it's something that, you know, if my supplemental budget was there, you saw 5 firefighters in that. And that would be to put a second person on that ladder truck to start us in the right direction. And that's where, you know, having the conversations with the town administrator, try and solve that problem. It's a difficult problem to solve, but we're going to try and work through it and see how we can work through it.
Do you
Thank
have
you.
similar issues to, I can't remember if we talked about this last year, so as far as like the being able to hire people and like the timeline for hiring, so do they have to go through, I mean, I know with the police, they have to go through this,
Yep.
you know, they're looking a year out. Is it similar for you guys? So if you needed to hire 5, say you said, yep, you have the budget, how would that be really difficult to hire them, or is it fairly easy to not fairly, you know what I mean? Is it?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's you know, it's kind of crazy because I did kind of watch from the other night. I was in my office yesterday and I threw on your meeting from the other night. I saw Chief King, and you know, when I took the civil service exam, I think there were 30 to 50 people on the list to try and get on. The current list that we have has 11. So it's something that, you know what I mean? And I know the police, you know, nobody wants that job anymore. You know what I mean? It's very difficult to find people that are doing that job. And the fire seems to be the same way. You know, some of the things that you look at, why do we struggle doing that? This is an affluent town. Majority of the people go on to college and have, you know, those kind of jobs. This job, the fire job, is something that you have to want. You know, it takes anybody that's on the fire job, it's almost like a 2-year thing. You know, like the civil service exam was, I think, back in October, and the new list is coming out April 1st. So if I were to hire, so anybody that took that test back in October, now they're waiting till, you know, April 1st to even get on the list. And if I needed to hire, then I call for a list, and they have 10 days to come in and sign the list. And then it goes through the interview process, the physical, the you know, all of that process. And then once, you know, say that takes a month or a month and a half, 2 months to get through that process on how many we're hiring. So 5, civil service says it's 2N plus 1, so it would be 10, 11. You would have to interview 11 people and put them all through that process to see which direction you go. So now you're talking, you know, May, June, and then now there's approximately 5-6 month wait for the fire academy. So then now you have to wait, and typically what I'll do is I'll offer them employment but we won't start until we bring them into the firehouse 2 weeks before so they can get acclimated to the firehouse and understand what's going on. And then, we'll train them, and then they'll go to the fire academy. That's a 10-week program. And then after that, then they start. They do another week just to make sure that they're trained up to our level and, our local standards. And then finally, so now you're talking, it's a while,
Yeah.
yes. It's a long process for the person that wants to be hired. For us, it's probably, about a 6-month, 7-month wait
Okay,
to hire somebody.
thanks.
Judy.
Thank you. Going back to what you said, that the contract negotiations has gone to arbitration, would it be fair to guess that what led it to arbitration could have been expenses for employees, in other words, their salaries?
That's a difficult one because I don't think I could speak for the union. They have their issues that they wanted to go forward. Salaries is always one that is always in there, but some of the other things that they were looking for is different language, making sure it's a safe fire department. So yeah, there's a multiple different reasons to go to arbitration. And it's
Well,
difficult.
language does matter in a contract, for sure.
Absolutely.
But I guess it goes to the reason we're here tonight is to talk about budget. If it does involve in an increase to salaries, is your budget going to be able to cover that if it adjudicates in favor of the union?
I guess it all depends on what the award is. We do have set-asides. I know that we always add like a 2% set-aside just in case. We've done that for the last couple of years. They're a few years out, so that's there. It all depends on what the arbitrator rules, and it'd be tough for me to speculate on anything. I would love to say, yes, we could afford it, but if it comes back something, that we can't, then I don't know. It's something that we'd have to work out with the town administrator and find out where we get those funds.
Okay, thank you.
Steve.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, Chief, and good evening. I've got just a quick question for you. I was just doing some quick research on salaries for firefighters across the Commonwealth. I was looking at a bunch of different things, but the question I have for you is, and I might be wrong on this number, but you're saying when you respond to a fire, typically you'll have 11 folks on scene, and you'll be short, what'd you say, 5 to 6, and then you call for mutual aid from local towns. The question I have surrounding that is, how many do you think you would need to have to hire in total to balance out the shifts? So that would be there. So if you needed 5, obviously they're not. How many would you need to hire? 10 to cover both shifts, or how would you split that up? I'm just curious because there's a lot of development coming down the pike in Milton, and I'm just trying to understand how can we help you get what you need.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I was thinking about that when, you talk about 2,500 units added to the town, and we do have some significant buildings coming into the town already, So, when you look at other places, when they grow, they add an engine company. I think Somerville, when they put that assembly square, they put an engine right down there, with an engine and a ladder, which would be 7, so multiply that by 4, there's 4 groups that work. So how does the fire department grow with, the community? And one of the ways that I think would be to staff the ladder. You know what I mean? Now, the Milton Fire Department was built for 1 and 2 story homes. That's the way this town is. It's always been that way. When you get to 3rd floor, there's some challenges in firefighting. When you get to above that, the 4th, the 5th floor, the 6th floor, now it's staff. It's what you have for staffing. How many firefighters, So right now with one person on the ladder, it's extremely dangerous. It's the largest truck that we have, and the most dangerous position would be to operate above the fire. So, adding a second person to the ladder is one of the ways to do it. And that would be one per group. When you look down the road 10 years, should we be fully staffed at NFPA 1710? You would like to see that. You would like to see, Boston and Quincy, they follow 1710. They have the staffing. The other communities around us, Canton, Randolph, they don't have the staffing, but they do have the fire-based EMS. So they can augment their staffing with that. But if the ambulance out, then they fall below it. So there's a couple different ways to do it. And staffing the ladder is probably the way that makes the most sense. At least putting a lieutenant and a firefighter on there. Does that answer your question, I hope?
It does. I just, in my mind, I think the town needs to help you, right? And to fund and staff your team, because it's a huge responsibility for you and your team, and there's a lot going on, right? Managing gauges on the trucks and everything else, and understaffed. I think creates risk for you, and so I'm just I guess it's a question. I think you answered my question, yes, but I would like to figure out how we can help you going forward. It's my, takeaway there.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Like I said, I've been having some really good conversations with the town administrator and trying to work through that problem.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Can I follow up on that?
We'll go
Sorry,
Tim,
sorry.
then Amanda, and then Ron. Tim, Amanda, Ron.
Does the understaffing affect any insurance or bonding ratings?
So the ISO is the insurance, the staffing, I really don't know on that. I think we're a class 2 department. The next step would be class 1, and there's a lot going into that. We're due for that coming up soon. I think it's every 5 years, and I remember sitting through that process with Chief Grant to make sure that, and I believe a lot of it was training, pre-incident plan, the equipment that we have, and the staffing maybe on that, but I'll have to double check on that. I've kind of dabbled into that, looking into the ISO just to prepare, so I can know how we can improve our class level as a fire department. So I apologize, but it's something that I'm looking into.
Can you translate some of that? Am I the only one who?
The ISO is international standard organization, like the 9001 stuff. You see ISO 9000. There's different series for different.
So basically, the fire department.
What sort of insurance would it be?
So basically, the class, like how your fire department is rated, it will, like a class 1 department is the best that you can have. It'll lower your insurance rates on your homeowner. And I think.
Okay, so the residents in
Yes.
town will pay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I think the last time we did it, I think we went to either from a 4 to a 3 or a 3 to a 2, and a couple of residents actually reached out and said, "Thank you, you lowered my insurance rate." So I'm not sure how much it is, for different houses. It's just something that I know that I've started to research because I know that's coming in the next year or so. So I'm just trying to figure out, where we were deficient, the last time, and where we can make those grounds to do that.
My question is more liability insurance for the town.
Oh, liability insurance?
Yeah, if we're understaffed on a piece of equipment we have going out, does that affect the cost of our liability insurance as a whole?
That would be, I
Next
don't
question.
believe so. That would be a town administrator question. We sat with MIA the other day, MIA the other day, and we talked about, putting the firehouse on there, but we didn't talk about staffing.
Amanda.
As a follow-up to Steve's question about the staffing, so, excuse me, I'm going to take even the potential for the MBT off the conversation, but right now, if you look at it, I'm going to use a ballpark number, is it 480 units conceivably have been approved for 40B, and a number of which, like you look at East Milton, which is like a high-rise, you look at, I think there's one on Brush Hill Road, which is 4 or 5 stories. You have Canton, which are multi-story. So even if those are coming through, it would just seem that in the next, if we're, conceivably if we're looking at a override next year and your timeline for hiring is that long, these buildings are probably in the next, I don't know, I would guess 3 years or so that would be built. So it just would seem like it's even more important to get that staffing approved, knowing that, to your point, like some of those are higher, you need the ladder, those sort of things. So it just seems like those positions would need to be approved sooner than later, knowing that those are definite, those are buildings that have been approved and in planning stage and that sort of thing. So it just seems like that would be an argument as well for that staffing, because it's not hypothetical at this point. Those are coming. So I don't know. There's not really a question there, but more of a statement that that it just to your point as well, that it's not a 1 or 2 story building. You're looking at it's changing the dynamic of a lot of neighborhoods, and it's changing the scope of the type of buildings that you guys are typically working with, and then looking at some of those higher rise buildings. So it just would seem that staffing for an extra person on a ladder truck would be needed should those coming through. So
Just one thing to add on that is, so the fire department has 4 groups, 14 people each. Actually, one group has 13. And fire prevention is a day staff as well. The fire prevention officer does a fantastic job in this town. The amount of work that he does inspecting buildings, schools, every permit that goes through the town, the building inspector gets looked at by him. Because if you move a smoke detector, well, that has to be approved by the fire prevention officer, signed off on. Anything. So, that person is extremely busy, and having the conversations with the planning board, which I will next week. Preeminent ones. Talking about different buildings. The importance of that position is paramount, because you can build a building and talk about fire departments and how we respond, but the most important thing is to make sure that those buildings are safe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That everything follows code, and making sure that the code is the building is up to code, whether it's an adequate sprinkler system, standpipe, make sure that the smoke detectors, the CO detectors are all in the correct place. And they're monitored and inspected on a regular basis. So that, with all those buildings, the fire prevention officer is extremely busy, and still doing the other stuff that he does. So that's a huge part moving forward, is to make sure that we're able to check out those buildings before they're built.
Right. So can I ask a follow-up question to that? So when they're going through the process, like for some of the 40Bs or whomever, if they have a site plan, and I know this came up at one near where we are, who would be involved with, say, if it's the orientation of the building and you're just trying to figure out, okay, is there room for a ladder truck to get in? Would that be you, or would that be that person that you were just talking about?
Typically, any developer that comes in and they put something before the planning board, I work with the town planner, Tim Swinsky.
Yep.
He'll give me a heads up, and they'll send me some of the plans, and myself and fire prevention will review it.
Okay.
And then I'll meet with the developer, and we'll talk through it to make sure that we have adequate space, and make sure that, all of our codes.
Right.
We mentioned NFPA. NFPA
Yep.
is a series of codes, and as long as those codes are met, then yes, then I'm.
Okay, so that's you and the fire
Myself
prevention.
and fire prevention,
Okay,
yes.
great. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Ron.
Hi. First, Chief, thank you for your service, and I think I'd like to say thanks to your staff and all your firefighters. I think everyone really appreciates what you do for the citizens. So thanks. Question I had was, could you talk a little bit if you or anyone on the town has ever considered a scenario where you would supplement with volunteers or part-time staff? I just think if it's very difficult to get full-time professional firefighters, are there other options that you would consider? Or are there any scenarios where you would look into those?
That's a difficult question, because any volunteer firefighter has to go through the same training that a full-time firefighter goes through. So it's not like you would save any time with hiring anybody. And then the reliability, a lot of fire departments are moving away from volunteer firefighters, just because the reliability where, most people that live in that town don't work in that town. So to be able to respond adequately to a fire or any other emergency in that town, they're just not there. So if the towns, you look at, Avon, where they still have a call force or a volunteer force, and it's not really volunteer, they're called departments, so they're actually paid for what they do for it. They are actually talking about adding staffing to remove the volunteers or the call firefighters. It's just not a reliable way to do things anymore. So I think, we do have the volunteer, we have the auxiliary fire department here in town, and they supplement us to a little bit. They help us out with rehab, they help us out with, some things around fire grounds and stuff like that. But as far as doing the actual work, they don't do the work that we do. There's a lot of training, and to be required to maintain that training it's very, very difficult at this day and age.
Understood, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Tim?
With all the 40B going up, are we close to having that add another engine? Or are we?
No, I don't think we're close to adding another engine. I think the best way to staff that would be to staff the ladder. Then you can use the ladder to supplement, we do, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but I think, we keep on breaking records for responses, instant responses. I think we did 4,500 instant responses last year. And when you actually tell it, if we go to a fire alarm, it's 2 engines, a ladder, and the deputy chief. And I think there were someplace around 9,000 unit responses in the town. So when you look at something like that, there's multiple ways you can handle things where, if engine 1 is out at Winter Valley, and you have another call coming in, then maybe if it's close and we have a staff ladder, then the ladder truck could go instead of adding another engine. I think, and I said this in the fire station building committee years ago, I think the town planners, one of the things that they did back 150 years ago, right, was putting the 3 firehouses where they are. I think they're pretty well located for adequate response times. I know we're moving the one in East Milton to the St. Agatha's property. We're not going to lose much there. We'll probably gain some response time and a little bit quicker. But I think we're perfectly spaced out for that first 2 engine company. Our response times are I'll give credit to the men and women of the fire department. Our response times are fantastic. NFPA says that you should be there within 4 to 6 minutes, and we're consistently 4 to 5 minutes. So 90% of the time. So we're there. So. With the engine spacing, yeah, I think we're good. The way to add would be to staff the ladder truck, just to supplement. The engine runs, medicals are 1 engine, car accidents are 1 engine, car fire is 2 engines, a fire alarm is 2 engines, a ladder, and the deputy chief. So that's how we break things down. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Good.
Jay?
So you talked about mutual aid.
Yes.
We're looking at the budget. How does mutual aid, how does the money work?
There is, so it's an agreement. So we're actually pretty lucky in our location.
Okay.
We belong to 2 mutual aid organizations. One which is Metro Fire. Metro Fire is everything inside of 128, 35 cities and towns. With Boston, goes all the way up to Lynn, goes all the way out to Weston and Newton. So we have mutual aid agreements with all of those. I think it was last year we went to Revere at a 9-alarm fire. So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the idea is that if we give mutual aid out, we take mutual aid in.
Okay.
And that's one of the things. The other one that we belong to is the Norfolk County Fire Association. So again, we work very closely with Randolph-Canton. So if we have a call for a fire, we send 2 engines, a ladder, and the deputy chief. We have that 3rd engine to cover the town. If it's a working fire, which we'll call, if it's an actual fire, we'll declare a working fire over radio. Our engine will come, our 3rd engine will go to the scene, and then Canton and Randolph, Canton will send an engine, Randolph will send a ladder to the town to cover, to our headquarters. If we strike a 2nd alarm, then they will go to the fire, and Boston will send an engine and a ladder to cover. So it's just, you get called to the fire, another group of fire, different cities and towns move up and come and cover the town, and then if they get called, then same thing. So it's just, we go up to 10 alarms. so.
Okay. Can I ask a pretty much unrelated question? You might have heard me asking about energy use earlier tonight.
Yes.
The new fire station.
Yes.
How do we heat it?
So we heat it with natural gas.
Okay.
Yep. So when the fire station building committee got together, and they wanted it to be a green building and have no fossil fuels.
Okay.
And then when you got the cost estimates of how it was going to heat and what it was going to cost, they said anywhere about $200,000 to $250,000 a year to heat, cool, everything. So then they quickly turned and brought gas boilers into the firehouse.
Okay.
To save a lot of money. And that was one of the significant increases in my budget, trying to figure out how we're going to heat that and what the cost is going to be. Hopefully, within the next year, we'll really dial that down. And the building management system is phenomenal. We're a month into that system now, and we're trying to really pin it down. And it's difficult. It's a difficult thing, and so we're still on the contract of the vendor. I said I wanted a meeting with them next Wednesday, and it's not bad right now. It's just off just a little bit. You know what I mean? If you set a room for 70 degrees and it's 69, well, it's going to blow warm air, and then it feels like it's a warm 70 degrees. Or if it's 71 and it's set for 70, it blows cold. It's a cold. You know what I mean? So we're just trying to get that nailed down. Same with the lighting. The firehouse is, we talked about a smart firehouse, and someone said that's an oxymoron. You know what I mean? Because the firehouses that we had been in, you just flip the window unit, you put the window unit in, and you take the window unit out, and that's how you heat it and cool it. So it's definitely something that we're working, and we're working with Chris Hayden and Tom McCarthy and their crew to really try and pin that down to make sure that is running as best it can.
It can take a while.
It's going to take a while.
It's like 18 months in a lot of buildings to get it.
Yeah, and we
Where you
haven't
don't have
gone
to
through a
touch it.
cooling season yet, so that's, we're still in the heating, so now we're going into cooling, so we'll figure it out, and working with, I tell you, there's a kid on Consolidated Facilities. He's a smart kid, and we've had a couple issues, and he comes right over, and instantly he's a pretty sharp kid, and he's helped us out a couple of times. So
That's good.
But again, we're still continuing. We're not going to let that vendor go until we're set.
Amanda?
You had mentioned, I think with some of the other towns that you work with, they have EMS.
Yes.
Does Milton have EMS, or is it?
We do not run fire-based EMS. We have Coastal Ambulance.
Okay,
They run the EMS in the town.
okay. So is that a contract with the town, or is that, how does that?
It's a contract with the town.
With the town, okay.
It's zero bid,
Okay,
so they
they're right.
it's basically, we say what our needs are. And one of the things we did is we went from one ambulance in the town to 2 ambulances when Coastal came in. It used to be Fallon, and was bought out by Transformative, and then Transformative was bought out by Coastal. The owner of Coastal is pretty responsive. He's a shrewd businessman, and we've had a couple of really good conversations, and working with Chief King and the town administrator, Mr. Milano, to really figure out what the needs of the town are. We kind of put together and said, this is what, and they basically said, yeah, okay, we'll do that. But there's some advantages to having fire-based EMS. There's some disadvantage to having fire-based EMS.
So is that a town, would that be a town administrator decision? So for example, if you were running the scenario where, to your point, it's a fire-based
Yep.
EMS versus a contract, and seeing if that made sense from both a staffing standpoint and a cost standpoint, is that a town administrator discussion, or?
I think that's a great question, and I think we would have to do a study on it, a feasibility study on whether it would make sense for this town to do it or not. There are some pluses and there's some minuses when you talk about it, and one of the pluses is you have Milton Hospital here, so you have a great resource in this town, and they're great partners. So that's definitely something that has been kicked around a little bit here and there, but it never really, Yeah. Just more as we're looking at, everything's about
a lot of it's about budget, right?
Yes.
So are there ways that, long-term, does that make sense? Is there any savings? But then but it can't, to a question much earlier, it can't always just be about the money. Is it the right decision? So just wasn't sure how much that had been discussed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of questions there on,
Yeah.
on how, how you operate it, how the fire department would be staffed, and
Yeah.
there's, multiple, Randolph does it one way, and Canton does it another way, and Westwood does it another way. And, which way is right, I have no idea,
Yeah.
and you have the conversation, so,
Yeah.
it's definitely an open-ended question.
Yeah,
and-
okay.
And yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Hopefully your night's not too long. Oh, I have to take one? Oh, two, right?
You have to take two.
You have to take
You have to
two.
take two?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay. So, that concludes the presentation of the departments. Okay? I've got tentatively for next Monday and Tuesday, Monday, capital improvement, local historic district, stretch code, opt-in stretch code. Or were we going to do it on a different day?
The 25th, I think, right?
Right, that's the 25th.
Yeah, let me see. I think he said yes.
Yeah, I thought you said Monday, Wednesday,
Tuesday.
and Thursday.
26.
Yeah, he said he can make himself available.
Steve just waited, I didn't hear what he said.
Yeah, my understanding, Dave, was that you were looking at Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. I might be wrong now. I thought I got Thursday though.
Not Thursday.
Yeah, I think,
Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday.
yeah, I think we're getting to the point where we're Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah.
Tuesday, there's a new article that Select Board is putting on the warrant. They gave the draft. Karen
I saw that.
went out tonight. It has to do with the master plan. My brief reading of it is it just is a one-year extension.
Can we vote on that now?
That's an easy one.
You think it's an easy one? I think it looks like it's an easy one, but
I'm sure we could get people in here to talk about it for 3 hours if we so chose.
I bet you the Honorable Cheryl Tagayas, who can be here on Tuesday, could probably do it in 3 minutes. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be a long one. I'm glad to hear that there's a sense that people have read it and that we don't anticipate that it's going to be an unduly burdensome discussion, though. You never know. And then we're looking, on Tuesday, we're putting on the citizens petition with regards to Ticketobit. It'll be, we're looking at putting that there. We're still not exactly sure what that's going to entail, given the opinion, the draft hasn't been signed off on yet by town council. That indicates that due to the nature of home rule, that 25-mile-an-hour speed limit issue is a dead issue. At least at this time, it would have to be resubmitted. So the purpose that citizens petition seeks to accomplish, it looks like is the status quo at this time. So we're looking at that. And then So, and then what I'm going to be doing from here on out is on every date that we meet, put as an agenda item, discuss and vote on, and then it's a paragraph of everything separated by semicolons of every article, and I keep even articles that we have voted on remain on, just for whatever reason. Sometimes, it happens. Like Mr. Berkeley was talking about how like the revolving fund number sometimes might change a little bit. We could come back in and Amy Dexter could be sitting in front of us with her laptop out and say, if there was an adjustment that was made and we're $500 off, we have to give the town the right number. The warrant must reflect the correct number. So we quick do a new vote for $500 accounting. These things happen. So I make sure that the agenda, like until we're done, has everything on it so that we can go back, okay? I think we're getting close. I don't want to, Lori Conley is sick tonight. She's not here. But I think that she had indicated to me that she'd had conversations with Nick Milano, that some of the things that she was bringing up with regards to adjustments with regards to the 3% and the concerns that she had with him, that she's going to sort of not seek to go forward on that, okay? So that'll be one less thing. So
She's going to seek to, what do you mean?
but she's not going to push Nick on that.
Gotcha.
She's not going to push to have that issue that she had raised addressed that way.
So you're saying, so starting Monday, we'll have, well,
I
yeah,
think-
we could have vote on every agenda?
I think that,
Great.
I think it's starting on Monday, we should be able to get to the point where, as a warrant committee, we can, bottom line it. And then move, and by bottom line it, I mean we can have and resolve a discussion and issues about, our take on next budget, starting at the 30,000 foot and then going down to line by line to get to the point where we can vote article by article, because many of the articles, all the budgetary articles have a dollar amount to the penny. And we have to vote a recommendation to the penny, okay? So,
Can I ask a question?
sure, absolutely.
So I think were there two articles that we voted on? Oh my gosh, I've completely lost track of time. So one was the citizens, so the two articles that we voted on that did not get voted on at town meeting, do those just get carried over? There's nothing, we don't do anything, right? They just continue as having voted, our comment stands?
Right, so that's the default.
Right.
That's the default, is that those were articles for the special town meeting that were in the warrant with our comment, that town meeting, when they suspended,
Right.
it put those articles automatically into the warrant for the annual. So, an option, right?
I'm not looking to open anything back up,
Oh,
I was just
hey,
curious.
look.
if they carried.
Like Rush said, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice.
It's true.
I have a question. In the warrant they sent out, the tentative warrant that they sent out,
Yep.
says to recommend the stretch code. Is that from the select board?
Okay, so, So what they do to just help us out is that the town administrator and his staff just him, to help us. What they do is they just provide us with a draft. We can change. Okay, so what they do is in the warrant, it'll have the article as approved by the select board, and then beneath it, for our recommendation, it'll say the warrant committee recommends so. I mean, they could put whatever they want in there in the drafts. Of course, they put a yes, right?
Just this, like,
But if we go the other way in our, so the way we actually do it is, we have a little team together led by Karen, right? And, there's some people like
Smith time.
like anybody who wants to help, Lori Conley has been very helpful. She's really good at grammar, syntax, she's always, apparently your chair likes to end sentences with prepositions. She's good at stuff like that. Right, and so there's people who are in the warrant, we're putting the stuff in. So anyway, the article as approved for the warrant goes first, and then there's a recommended that the town vote yes or no. If the article is to see what funds, right, then the recommendation is what funds. Okay. Sometimes it's to see what funds according to a chart, and so the chart will be there. And so then, Nick and Amy Dexter work very hard on all those numbers. So all those numbers, we can feel comfortable that by the time it's in the warrant, by the time it's in the draft warrant, it's been checked and rechecked. There's been times where we'll get an email from Amy Dexter, and she'll just be like, after checking it again for the 5th time, I noticed that something that had been carried over from here to there really needed to be carried over from there to there, something along those lines. So they check it, they recheck it. So nobody's cooking the books. I hear your concern about.
No, just questions. I've never read one before
Yeah.
I came out to print. So this whole specialized code, because there's a whole part in there that says you accept any future addition, amendments, and modifications. Just like from the original stretch code where we have to start on July 1st, the 1,000 square foot requirement, bring your house up to code. That's a scary paragraph. Because we're signing on for something we have no idea what it's going to be in the future.
I feel like I've been here before.
On that topic, so this coming Monday, I thought it was very helpful that we had, I think it was Josh Lee and somebody, we had a couple guests from the town talking to us about the stretch code. If we could have those same guests or similar people on Monday, I think that would be
we had
extremely
Josh,
helpful.
Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, yeah.
Joe, yes.
Yep.
I don't agree with some of the stuff that Josh put up with DOER stuff, the numbers.
Okay.
Just on the construction side, the numbers don't jibe.
Okay. I'd still rather have-
No, I know, install cost stuff, you're like, yeah, not today.
And Judy's hand.
Judy.
Thank you, Dave. When Amanda mentioned there were 2 articles left over from the special in December, I think there was more. There was
I couldn't remember.
an article to put conservation land in down by,
Yep. So there was a series. I think it was like
Right.
4.
Yeah,
Did they,
they're
yeah.
all there in the draft that was sent out tonight.
right.
They're-
So I'm guessing, my personal opinion was that even a town meeting that would have, taken 10 minutes and been approved. But there was another article on the recording
That's the one I was thinking about.
of meetings, public meetings. And we had recommended that it be sent back for just review and, some updates on that. Are we gonna stand by that one on the recordings and leave it as we recommended in December?
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about.
Yeah, and I think there was, and then the citizens petition, and I forget what else got carried over. Oh, the historic, right. So there was historic,
Historic, we didn't, yeah.
Concom, recordings. I got them all. I don't know.
So they should all be,
Yeah,
aren't they all at the
At the
bottom?
bottom,
Last one, so the numbers are a little up, but they're there, yeah.
yeah.
Right, so on the draft that we got tonight, they're all at the end.
Okay,
So I-
Recordings,
so
38,
we're gonna, either just stand by the carryover to the annual from the special.
Yeah, I mean,
Or we're going to look at them?
so if, I guess the default is they're there. I haven't
Okay.
looked, okay, I haven't looked at the draft of the warrant, but what should happen is it should just be the same because we had, right, now it's possible, yeah, there you go.
It's exactly the same, it's just reprint.
Thank you, Karen. Right, so it's there, so this was reprinted.
And it cites December.
And it cites December, so we've kind of been, we haven't done this in a while. I think there's always a way. Like, if we had strong feelings about it, there would be a way to make a motion to reconsider. We could reopen it.
Okay.
Then we'd have to get the.
Or just stand by our original.
Or we stand by, it's honestly, like, we'd probably have to like redo it because I can't, that was a while ago.
That was a while ago.
That was a while ago. So think your thoughts, because maybe, like I could see that. I could see where like that one in particular, the one we're talking about, the recording, we had a discussion. All right. So think about it. These are things, we're gonna want to get to this stuff on Monday and Tuesday. I would imagine we could start. Now, Nick is going to be at the select board on Tuesday, but there's a whole series. There's like 16 articles in the beginning that are about to authorize for the something or another of town officials, like, right? To authorize the high school to have a mascot. Like, there's all these things that we do like every year that are kind of pro forma that I think in the past we have kind of decided we do need to go one by one, and we can't, for purposes of the record, just do like a consent agenda, right? Right? So like, even if on Tuesday, even if Nick wasn't here and we had a little bit of time after, our presentation, so we could take like an hour or so and just start hammering them, and then sort of try to have a discussion about like where are we at generally on this budget. Are there places where we can just start to roll, right? And then we write the comments. These comments and this one, because we don't, there were some heavy lifting comments that we've had to do in the past for, say, Article 97 land swap, UTA, on these, the big ones, it'll be local historic, it'll be more complicated, and, we'll see what happens to stretch code. But we don't have, like when I drafted, I think Article 97 and MBTA, each of those took like a day. Like for me, each of those took like a full work day. I don't see lifting. I don't see comments that are going to take that kind of lifting in this go around.
Thankfully.
Does anybody have any questions about this stuff? Jay?
I have one thought. We were talking about the recording of meetings, and so our choices are, do we bring it back up again next week or do we not? Maybe I shouldn't advocate for procrastination, but there is a third option, which is it's not the worst thing in the world to go into town meeting and, inform town meeting that we've, learned more things and changed our mind, if we do. So it's not the worst thing to say me a couple times in April and talk about that if we want to. I'm just, my point is, if we think we want to revisit it, don't think, oh my God, we got 4 days next week and we got to get through this in addition to everything else. No. Maybe we could revisit it in April if the committee wants to.
Because I could see, like it had been brought up, so I'm not, I don't want to prejudge or put the cart before the horse, but it had been discussed that it is like stretch code, opt-in stretch code is a process. It would not be the end of the world, if that was a further review, et cetera. Like the same thing. There's no reason why we just couldn't keep it going into the town meeting, because there's got to be a lot of there's I can't even begin to think of all the people we would want to talk to about stretch code. Like
Not just the people who are for it in general, it's just a lot of people that oppose it. Like, I'm just afraid with what's coming in July 1st, we might have something come out of that we don't know of in 5 years. Because 1,000 square foot, it changes what you can do for an addition and the amount of work you have to do on an existing house now. We can ask Joe that when he comes. But
how often do they, so you say that these new regs are coming in on July 1st. How often do they redo these regs?
They add to them yearly.
Every year.
But not all of them they add to them, but not all of them get adopted by the body.
Yeah.
It's like electrical code. They add it every year, and I think it's a 3 or 5 year cycle. But once we sign on to it, we're beholden to it. So if they say in 5 years, they will like, if you put an addition on your house and you don't have solar, you must have solar, you must have a geothermal heat pump. We don't know what they're gonna say down in the future, but we've already signed on to it, so we own it. It just, I don't know anyone who signed a contract that is open-ended. I won't.
If you're saying we want to hear from more experts, for this issue especially, what we tell town meeting is not just, town meeting, vote yes or vote no or send it back. We have our comments, and we want to convey to town meeting, we looked under every stone. We talked to every expert that we felt we needed to talk to, and here's our recommendation. And even if, again, not to encourage procrastination, even if that means we're working into April to go in front of town meeting in early May, I think if we go in front of town meeting, whether we tell them to yes or send it back, we're going to want to tell them we've talked to all the experts we had to, not, it was late March.
Yeah.
And the stakeholder said if it gets pushed off until next year, it's not the end of the world for them. They understand it's not something small, it's actually a big change.
I hear you, but I think town meeting will.
Oh yeah, no, I'm just saying there's that option too.
Yeah.
Tom.
Yeah, so just on Jay's point, who are you going to hear from in addition to Sustainable Milton? Like the proponents of it? Is it going to be other people, other experts that are going to give maybe a different take or a different opinion or provide some different information than we would get from the people who are bringing it forward? Because that's really just a regurgitation of what we've already heard, I don't know, just in terms of the code itself, and like I know we discussed, but like a very limited group of towns signed up for it. Like there are 330 who haven't signed up, and I don't know. I was just thinking maybe kind of see how it rolls for them, and maybe follow the other 300 plus towns and kind of just wait. But I'm just like commenting and adding a couple of
Like,
points.
what are the other arguments for?
And there's no
against-
benefit.
Yeah, like what are the other arguments for
We don't
this?
get anything from the state for it.
No, well, and I
At
think
all.
I made that point. I said that last time. It's like if they wanted solar panels on everybody's house, they would have
They'd make
bought
it.
them instead of sending money overseas. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that, and is it going to be on the back of the homeowner to pay this? Not tax credits, not this other stuff. Is it going to be on the backs of the homeowners as
Absolutely.
2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, right? That's important. The state's not going to come in and help. So, like, that's why I want to, that would be very helpful too. Like, have someone from the state come in and, like, really break down what this means.
Because I'm getting more and more the sense that it comes down to these matters of public policy, where we talk about towns and people in towns making decisions, is that there's a general overview that we're not capable of making those decisions, and we need to be forced to make decisions that, while we don't realize are in our best interest, someone in Richmond, north of Richmond, decide for us, and we need to be very careful about what rights we give away. Because what is going to happen to us is people who aren't concerned about our town, but are concerned about larger issues elsewhere, will step in and make these decisions for us.
That's one of them.
So, incrementalism.
Are you talking about the stretch code?
What's that?
You're talking
of
about the
course. What else would I be talking about?
Just. As a follow-up to the historic commission question, do we know, and could this be asked, and I don't know if they gave us the details, what other towns, did we get the list of the other towns that have done this and adopted it? Because I think what you said the other day was the bylaw is basically the boilerplate bylaw done by the state that everybody's adopting, and so, okay, but it doesn't necessarily answer our question. So I'm just curious, like, if that, say if it's Hingham or whomever, that we could go on and their bylaw would have to be there as well. I'm just curious, like, how many, I know he mentioned the number of towns, but I don't know if we know exactly how many and who.
I seem to recall that they had a really good, on their commission website,
Which commission website?
the local historic, their committee, the local historic.
Isn't it 2 different historic committees going right now
In that, you mean in the,
in the town?
yeah. Are
But
there?
that's this one that Meredith was doing, and then this one separate.
Tim, if you don't mind, there's always been an historic commission in town. This is a separate issue to create a
District.
certified historic district, and that required a separate committee to help set that up. So it's 2 different things.
Okay.
The Historic Commission has always been around. This particular committee that was formed has a finite scope, and that is only to establish a particular part of our town.
Yeah, I don't think they
as a
actually
historic
spoke to all the
district.
stakeholders
And
either.
their job ends once it's, established.
But if the town
Whereas-
vote, sorry,
No, I'm sorry, whereas the Historic Commission will always be, as it has been. Sorry to,
no, so thank you. The question I have on it is, he said another group will come in behind them and make the rules,
what-
and this reads as these are the rules.
Oh, yeah, it's right.
That's,
Well, so this is the rules. What this warrant article does is to establish 2 things: is the district and the commission, and then these rules, so these are the rules that govern the commission. All right?
Right.
What they are, their composition, how are they put onto the committee, right? And then one of their jobs, and it's in there, they will promulgate, what are we going to call them? Rules and regulations, guidelines, whatever they're going to be. So that when that new committee meets, they will create the guidelines, rules, regulations, whatever we want to call them, for the local historic district.
Like, I don't think he talked to the guy that owns the building that the gym's in the old Bank of America. I'm 95% sure he never talked to them, and he's like, I've spoken to all the stakeholders. That's concerning. Because that guy, what's that, a quarter of the property right there?
May I jump in?
Judy.
May I jump in? I'm
Yep.
so sorry to appear rude. I was actually, just to clarify to Tim, I was actually at some of their regular committee meetings in which they did have public attend, and there was the person that owns 1 Elliott, 2 Elliott, 71, 75 Adams, and a 5th property on High Street was actually at these meetings and was allowed public speak. I can only offer my viewpoint of having attended just in full one meeting and in part another meeting, that it seemed to me they were listening but not hearing, or hearing and not listening. I'm not sure how to explain that. These commercial property owners were speaking up, and I failed to see it in the article changes, anything about their concerns. That's my personal opinion. I did mention at the last meeting presentation, there are 8 properties, commercial properties, in Milton Village that are owned by 3 residents of our town. They're pretty much heavily invested in that area to have that much property between 3 people. I think it's complicated. I think there's concern about this commission being formed as a result of forming a historic district. And I'm not sure how, I haven't seen the new language for this article. I'm not sure that everything has been addressed. I think there are contradictions in that article, which we're not speaking to. While I'm on here, do you mind if I ask, I'm gonna kind of draw on other members' comments about the stretch, and is my belief we just haven't received all the information about this to make a decision, and I'll just leave that there. I just think there's more to learn about this. So I don't feel confident, I don't feel confident I have all the information to make an informed decision on a vote. I would like more information to sort of weigh. So thank you, and I'm sorry I jumped in, Tim, but on another note that you on the same part of your how much outreach, to my knowledge, there was only one public meeting that all, either people in the town, not, people at large, not in the proposed historic district, and the people that were either residential property owners or commercial property owners. The grapevine said that people didn't have a total confidence they received all the information they needed. That's grapevine news. That's nothing anyone can take to the bank. And I have heard, and again, hearsay, if you ask a lot of town meeting members, do you know anything about this historic district? Huh? What historic district? I just don't believe that the town at large knows a whole lot about this. But that's just one person's view.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Julie.
Hey there. I just wanted to sort of pipe in for a second and just to reiterate, I know I've said this before, but I think we really have to be careful about anything that has a potential to really up people's costs in the near future, and especially with, the historic thing, I get really nervous about with the broad language and the people that it could end up affecting, especially as he was talking about going up through Milton Hill and down Adams Street and other areas. And the stretch code that could be putting such a burden on homeowners. That makes me really nervous. And I know we keep hearing about how great the economy is, but that hasn't been my experience recently with people. And I feel like all of us need to really be, proceed with caution right now for anything that could strap our seniors, that could strap our folks who are on single incomes. And I just want to make sure that everybody sort of has that in the back of their head, that as much as we all want to see things move forward, we really have to be conscious of people who are really on a budget right now. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's one other thing on stretch code. If it doesn't pass, homeowners can follow stretch code on their own. It doesn't have to be mandated, so.
There was a comment at our last meeting that they're not going to expect people to do it if they're not forced to.
Yeah, that was from an,
it seems to be the way it is.
They also said that the one that we've already adopted, by adopting that, we've become eligible for a lot of grants. And
how much?
I don't know. Huh?
How much?
I don't know. And I don't know if adopting this new one will enable us to get more. You said there's no benefit. I don't know if there is or not.
There isn't. There's no benefit. No. The gentleman who presented it from Sustainable Milton said there is nothing from the state if we adopt it. He said it. It's just adopting it, trying to make everything more like microgrid-ish, I guess is the best way to put it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you can do it yourself regardless. You can build to the standard on your own regardless. It's going to add 50% to the cost of a house.
Really?
Yes. Wow. So you go from a 200 amp service to a 400 amp service, right? Okay. So that's roughly $7,500 for the 200. You're talking closer to $18,000 for a 400 amp service, just for the service.
Okay.
And then if the way the wording is, they want you to have the capacity for your electric usage, that could be $50,000, $60,000 for somebody. I'm talking without grant money, and I'm talking without federal money.
Yeah.
Because not everyone qualifies for that.
Who are you paying? You've already said you got the service. I don't understand.
Now you have to buy the solar panels, the inverters, all that stuff. Because if you go to a dual fuel house, it says you must have solar. If you have an electric house, you don't have to have solar. So if we're living in New England, we lose power, say you don't have batteries, and you have all electric, you need, say you have 6 tons of heating or cooling, you need a 24 kW generator.
You said that before. I don't know how many people have any generators. I don't. When we lose power,
I put them in all the time.
Okay.
All the time. It just,
said a
but
question.
what I'm saying is you just have no other way to heat your house, which is scary. So it's 0 out and you can't heat your house.
Hi.
Hold on.
I think we're,
Loud trash barrel.
It's the theme. It's the theme of the night. We're back to the trash.
Good one.
Ron.
so I think we were saying that we need more expert opinions on some of these issues. I just wonder if we're making good use of time right now, or if we should just wait till we get some more information before we dive into these issues.
Makes sense.
I mean, we all have opinions, right? We can just keep talking about opinions, but if we're looking for some experts to come talk to us, I'd wait.
Can you say that again, Ron? I had trouble hearing that last part.
I think we could share our opinions now, but I think if we're going to try and hear from more experts, I would just suggest we wait to hear from those folks, and then we
Right.
can share our opinions.
Right. That's a good point.
Yep.
And it's like 9:30. Tom.
Well, I would just, what Ron said, the gentleman who led the conversation said this is a conversation starter. So I think let's measure what their expectations were, I think. And, they presented to us, so.
Right. So at least when they're coming back in for a conversation on Monday, let's have we've all had some time to think about this in the meantime. Let's come in loaded with our questions to have our conversation. So that's looking like Monday. All right? Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Anything else?
Talk about more trash.
Yeah. Single stream.
Expensive.
All right, awesome. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Amanda makes it, Tom seconds it. Does anybody object? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.